We experience reality as a relentless march forward. Our days are defined by physical objects moving through a three-dimensional space, locked in a linear flow of time where things grow, collide, and eventually decay. But since antiquity, human beings have suspected this visible chaos is hiding something deeper. The philosopher Heraclitus watched the constant flux of the natural world and realized it wasn't random. He argued there was an underlying, unifying order beneath the physical movement, a hidden rational measure he called the logos. For centuries, classical science pursued a very specific strategy to find that order. Researchers assumed that if we simply measured the physical, three-dimensional world with enough precision, we would eventually uncover the absolute bottom layer of reality. This reliance on measurement creates a specific kind of confusion. By focusing entirely on what can be clocked and counted, we treat the surface readout of the universe as its final layer, mistaking the output of reality for the actual machinery generating it. A theoretical framework called TCGS, short for time and space as a gauge structure, reverses this perspective. In this model, the three-dimensional universe and linear time are not the base level of existence. They are a physical projection. They are a shadow. This observable shadow is cast by a hidden, deeper architecture. The framework defines this ultimate territory as a completely timeless, four-dimensional domain known as counterspace. This forces a confrontation with our sense of time. If the absolute source of the universe contains no movement, how does that static foundation result in a physical 3D world where everything around us is constantly in motion? To find the answer, we have to look past the 3D surface and examine the structural hierarchy of the projection, the specific sequence of hidden layers that allows a timeless source to generate a physical universe. Look at this representation of the ultimate source. This is counterspace, a complete non-temporal topological space where every configuration of universal information exists simultaneously, anchored by a single mathematical origin point. It is tempting to picture this relationship like a movie projector casting a beam of light onto a wall, or a holographic code painted onto a boundary. The TCGS framework strictly rejects those metaphors. There is no beam traveling through distance, and no radiation crossing a spatial gap. Instead, we move one step up the stack to what this diagram shows as a structured mesh, the extrinsic constitutive law, or ECL. If counterspace is the raw vocabulary of reality, the ECL is the underlying syntax. It serves as the modern, scientific equivalent of the ancient logos. Notice what is missing from this matrix. The ECL is not an active, human-like mind. It is not an anthropomorphic entity making conscious decisions, and it is not a physical force pushing matter around in space. It functions strictly as a readability profile. It is the structural grammar dictating exactly how the static, timeless information within counterspace can be articulated into a physical form. Without this specific grammar acting as a filter, the raw information of the ultimate source would remain a completely unreadable, chaotic void to any physical observer trying to interact with it. That brings us to the actual bridge between the grammar and the physical world, a specific realization mechanism known as 4D counterduction. This diagram maps how counterduction operates. It is the strict realization process where an admissible configuration of source information funnels down through a specific constraint pathway, labeled here as the corridor. The corridor translates that timeless data into a physical carrier within the three-dimensional shadow. That carrier is anything you can measure, a point particle, a living biological cell, or even the structure of a human observer. This translation is not a chronological event. It didn't happen once at the dawn of time. It is a standing constitutive relation, permanently and continuously anchoring the physical readout to the background source. By bridging these layers, counterduction makes the timeless logos experiential. It translates abstract mathematical necessity into the physical reality we navigate daily. Modern physics has achieved incredible success in tracking this translation. Using differential geometry and complex manifolds, scientists have mapped the grammar of the shadow with breathtaking precision. But the framework issues a vital philosophical warning here. Perfectly mapping reality with mathematics does not mean reality is literally made out of mathematics. Look at this visual divide. The framework explicitly rejects the mathematical universe hypothesis. The equations on the left represent structural relationships flawlessly, but they do not act as the ultimate physical substance of the nature on the right. It is identical to the logic of cartography. A highly accurate map is indispensable for navigating a mountain range, but no matter how detailed the topographical lines are, the paper and ink are never the actual rock and dirt of the terrain. Mistaking our mathematical models for base reality traps us in a new kind of illusion. We end up confusing the cartographer's tools with the vast territory they describe. This brings the framework to a boundary line called the epistemic cut. As shown here, where the geometry simply fades out, this is the absolute limit of what observable science and mathematics can describe. Our maps perfectly describe the intelligibility of the shadow, but the ultimate substance and true nature of counterspace remain permanently beyond our equations. Because of this limit, the map leaves the deepest philosophical questions completely open. Whether a conscious creator grounds this timeless counterspace is an issue that physics alone cannot answer. Science has masterfully decoded the grammar of our physical shadow, but that knowledge leaves us standing at the edge of our own maps, staring at an elegant, mathematically precise projection that hints at an unfathomable reality just beyond our reach.